Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Hope you all are doing well. Welcome to another class of English language for class 5th. In this lecture, we will be continuing the story that we were already reading, and the story was The Shoemaker and the Elves. So, in the previous chapter, we discussed about what the shoemaker is. I have explained what the elves are. We discussed about the characters, and we were going through the story. Now we will be continuing the story, but before we continue the story, let's revise what was in the story before. So there was a shoemaker and his name was George. He used to make shoes, and his wife Kelly, they were very poor and they used to eat cabbage for weeks and weeks. So they did not have enough money to buy meat or potatoes, or they did not have enough money to buy more leather for the shoes. But one day, when George went to sleep, hoping that the next day he will wake up and he will make the shoes, when he woke up in the morning, he saw that the shoes he already had cut the leather for, they were already made, and they were the most beautiful shoes he has ever seen in his life. He sold those shoes to a customer named Maria, and he sold those shoes for about 25 marks. Then he had enough money to buy the leather for further 6 shoes. So he bought the leather for the 6 shoes, and he hoped and he decided to make the shoes, the next 6 pair of shoes, the next morning. But what happened that when he went to sleep, he woke up in the early morning and he saw that all the 6 pair of shoes were already made, and they were the same beautiful and splendid. And the George and Kelly, they did not have any idea that who could have been making it all the night. Then what happens is that, turn to page number 10 of your textbooks. Anne is a customer in amazement. Amazement means surprisingly. I must have those brown shoes with red flowers. They are the most beautiful shoes I have ever seen. I will pay you 30 marks for your fine work. What is the marks? Marks were the coins or the currency of that time, of that area. Now what happens is that the next morning, when George saw that all the 6 pair of shoes were ready, he put that in the window for display, so that every person passing by the shop, he would be able to see the shoes, and the shoes will attract the person and he will come to buy them. So what happens is that Anne, that is the customer, when she passes by the shop, she has a look on the shoes, and she wants to buy them. So in very amazement and very surprisingly way, she asks that she says that I must have those brown shoes with red flowers. She is attracted by the brown shoes. You can see in the picture the brown shoes having the red flowers. So she was very attracted by that, and she decided to buy those shoes. They are the most beautiful shoes I have ever seen. And she asks the George, the shoemaker, that she will pay 30 marks for that pair of shoes. Jacob is another customer. I would like to buy the black boots. The work is superb. Superb means amazing or wonderful. I will pay you 50 marks for your fine work. Now, the Jacob, who is another customer, he asks George that he will like to have the black boots, and he will pay about 50 marks for that work. George, they are yours. Let me wrap them for you. So George tells them that the shoes are yours. He takes the money and then he wraps the shoes for them. Town crier, the same day. 12 o'clock noon, and things are very fine. Now the town crier again announces the time of the day. Narrator. And so it went on. Each day the shoemaker would buy more leather and cut it out. Now what happened was that the first day the shoemaker cut the leather, and the next day he saw that a pair of shoes was ready. Then he sold that for about 25 marks, and he had enough money to buy the leather for about 6 pairs of shoes. The next morning he saw that all the 6 pairs of shoes were ready and most splendid and beautiful. Now the same thing happened every day. He bought the leather, and the very next morning he saw, to his surprise, that all the shoes were ready and made. The next morning, beautiful pair of shoes would be placed on So now George, he was thinking and he was wondering that who could have made the shoes. My dear wife, now he says to his wife that, did you make these shoes for me so I had something to sell? Now he was wondering that it could have been happened that his wife Kelly, as she was very kind and generous and sweet, he was thinking that she might have been waking up all the night and making the shoes for George so he could have something to sell. Kelly surprised. Now she was surprised because she did not make the shoes. Now she was surprised that how could George say that I have been making the shoes? No, I thought you were working hard all through the night. Now she was surprised and she says that no, I have not been making the shoes. I thought that you were making the shoes. George making a scheme. Making a scheme means making a plan. We will stay awake at night to see who had been helping us. Now he says that whenever I go to sleep, the shoes are unmade at that time. They are incomplete at that time when I go to sleep. So when I wake up early in the morning, the shoes are all made and ready. So he made a plan that we will stay awake at night and we will see that who have been helping us all through these days. Town crier. It is midnight. The night has a lot of mysteries. Mysteries means that when there is some surprise or when there is some secret, right? Narrator. Kelly and George waited up all night to see who was helping them. Then 4 little elves entered the room dancing and jumping. Now what happened is that they were waking as they had made the plan that they will be waking up all night and they will see that who was there to help them. When there is the midnight, Kelly and George, they were waiting, and then they saw that 4 little elves entered the room and they were dancing and jumping. Elves singing together. Now elves were singing and they were saying, let's help the shoemaker in making new shoes. And then George came to know that okay, they were the elves who were making shoes for me. Kobe is name of one of the elf. He once gave food to poor Bart. Bart is also the name of an elf when he was hungry. Now what was the reason for elves to make shoes or help George? The reason was that once George helped Bart. Bart was one of the elf. He helped Bart when he was hungry, so George gave him food. Mr. George is a nice man with a good heart. Mr. George, elves say that Mr. George is a nice man and he has a good heart. Narrator. Kobe, Sparkles, Stitchy and Bart, they are all the elves, started making the shoes. Kelly and George looked from behind the door. Now Kelly and George, they were hiding behind the door and they were looking at the elves, and as they were looking at the elves were making the shoes for George. Kelly whispering means in a very low voice. Do you know them? What are these creatures? Now she asks her husband that do you know who they are? Do you know what these creatures are? George trying to recall, he was trying to remember if I have ever met them or if I know who they are. I can't remember who they are. I think I met Bart once. Now he says that I can't remember all of them. I can't remember who they are or what creatures they are, but I remember that I met Bart, one of the elf, once. He was hungry and came to my shop. He was hungry, Bart was hungry and he came to George to his shop. He had only cabbage to eat at that time. Since he was hungry, I gave half of my food to him. And he says that at that time when Bart came to my shop, Bart was hungry, and at that time George only had cabbage to eat. So what did he do? What did he done was that he gave half of his food, half of his cabbage to the Bart who was the elf. Kelly wiping clearing her tears. It is a good thing you helped someone even if you did not have enough. Now she was saying that it is a good thing that you helped. It is a great thing you helped someone when you yourself did not have enough to give. As George said that he had he only had the cabbage to eat, so he gave half of the food to Bart because Bart was hungry, and he helped Bart even when he himself did not have enough food to eat. Narrator. We learn from George and Kelly's story that kindness goes a long way. A long way means that as George, he did not have enough food for himself, but even then he helped the Bart, who was the elf, and he gave half of his food to the Bart because he was hungry and he was in need of food. So he helped him. So the narrator says that it is not about what you have, it is about what you can give to the world. So George, he did not have enough food, but even then he helped the Bart. So it is all about what you give to the world. Either it is food, or it is money, or it is happiness, or it is help in any kind, right? So from this story we come to the conclusion that it is always a good thing to help the person who is in need, no matter if it is no matter if he needs food, no matter if he needs any advice, no matter if he needs any help, right? So if you help a person, the reward you get as a result of that help, it is for a long time. I hope the story is clear and the story was really interesting. Now your task for today's lesson is that you have to go through the whole story once again, and you have to underline the difficult words, write down their meanings in your neat notebooks. Other than that, you have to read the meanings given in the word bank on the page number 12 of your textbooks. Then you have to read the opposites given in your book, the same page number 12. You have to read them and try to learn them. After that, you have to answer the questions. For answering the questions, I can guide you. So we will start. Answer the following questions. Where did the shoemaker and his wife live? What kind of a couple were they? You have to answer. You can find the answers of all these questions in your in the text or in the story. So you have to find that where did they live? The name of that place is being given. What kind of couple were they? They were good, kind-hearted, generous. What kind of couple were they? You have to write the answer of that as well. Why were Kelly and George worried? What was the reason that they were worried? What were they worried about? You have to write that answer. What did Kelly want to eat? You have to write the name of that thing which she wanted to eat. Which shoes did Anne and Jacob buy? Why? What did the shoes cost them? You have to write what kind of shoes Anne bought. They were the brown with the red flowers, and Jacob he bought the black boots. What did the shoes cost them? How much money did Anne give for her shoes? How much money did Jacob give for his shoes? So you have to write its answer. You just have to write the answers of 4 questions. So your task for today, I will repeat, is that you have to go through all the story, all the dialogues once again. You have to underline the difficult words and write down their meanings. You can take help from the lecturer, as I have explained the meanings. You can take help from anyone in your home, the elders, and you can also take help from the dictionary. So you have to write all the difficult meanings in your neat notebook, go through all the meanings, and you can take help from the word bank, the word meanings on the page number 12 as well. You have to go through all the opposites on page number 12, and you have to attempt the 4 questions in your notebook. I hope this is all clear. Have a good day. Take care of yourselves. Allah Hafiz.